Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me again, Jermaine, and now I'm finally doing my review of Stephen King's The Shining, as you can see. And again, these are they're rebooting his series, Anchor Book. So these are like the Anchor Book editions of his novels or whatever. Because as of now, they have done the Carrie novel, they've done Salem's Lot, and they also done The Stand, which are these other three books I already have gave reviews of. But now I'm gonna do my review of Stephen King's The Shining, and I think this was his. I believe it was his. Yeah, this was actually his third published novel, and it was published in 1977. This really was a pretty good novel. I really did enjoy this a lot. It wasn't like overly long or anything like that, because most of his novels were the ones I have read so far. I just really started reading Stephen King novels, but most of them are tend to be like very like long like novels. So like this one right here, this was still long. This was actually over 600 pages long, but this still was like to me it did still seem kind of it just wasn't overly long, and I really did enjoy it. I thought this was pretty good. And another thing that was kind of interesting to me about this novel was the idea that most Stephen King novels tend to be like very like that, like a lot of he has a lot of like characters in his novels. So in this one there was really only like three characters that you had to really keep your mind on and like pay attention. You know what I'm saying? It really wasn't hard keeping up with the few characters that he had in his novel. It was basically there's just like three of them. You had Jack, the Jack Torrance character. Torrance or is it Torrance? But it's the Jack character, and you had his wife Wendy. Then you had his son Danny, the 5-year-old kid that has that sees visions of what he has like he's not really like I don't think he has like mental problems or anything like that, but he has like he also has an imaginary friend called Tony, which is kind of interesting too, like imaginary friend that only he can see. And Tony is a helpful character to Danny at times, but he's just imaginary friend. Like Wendy and Jack, they cannot see this character or whatever. But other than that, it was like pretty good. So basically, the story is about Jack Torrance. His character is he works for like he worked as a school teacher at first, but then he was fired from his job because of an incident with him and a kid. The kid was like vandalizing his vehicle, so Jack had got mad, and I think if I'm not recall, he had grabbed the kid or he had pushed him or something. So the school board had him fired. So Jack is without a job for a while. So he finds out about his job at a hotel in Colorado called the Overlook Hotel, and he would have to work there while everyone is gone out for the at the fall season because it gets cold, and so only Jack and his wife Wendy and his son Danny are the only ones in there. So he becomes like the caretaker for this hotel, and it's like in an isolated area in Colorado, and it's called the Overlook Hotel. Well, at the Overlook Hotel. Once Jack gets there, he is told about an incident with like a couple that was there previously, like a family. The guy had killed his wife and his daughter. I think he had I forgot what it was exactly that he did it to his daughter, but he killed the wife and then he shot his own self. I think with a shotgun or something like that. But Jack is still reluctant to like get the job or whatever, so he chooses to still work there or whatever. He doesn't have no problem with that. So they allow him to go ahead and take his place at the Overlook Hotel to watch over it during the fall like season, well like during the winter season, for like until like spring gets there, I believe it was. But he also meets a cook called Halloran. It's a black male called Halloran, and I think if I'm not mistaken, Halloran is like in his early 60s, or he's about 60 or something like that. And he shows Jack around. He shows him about like the food and products and stuff like that. Then he leaves, but he kind of gets close to Danny, and he tells Danny, if you ever need any help or anything like that, just give me a shout out here, no matter where I'm at. Like if I'm down in Florida or anything like that, you come and give me a shot or whatever like that. So that was kind of interesting character. And again, this novel is like pretty good, and at the same time, it really wasn't like I told you. It was easy to kind of keep up with these characters. You just had Jack, you had Wendy, and you had Danny. So it was like mainly all it was. Then you had Tony, the imaginary friend of Danny. Every now and then he would pop up. That would pop up or whatever. But that really wasn't like too much or whatever. But then the Overlook Hotel itself is like it's haunted, and that's what the plot of the story is about too. Like the hotel itself is actually haunted. And in the end, I don't want to spoil it, but I'm sure a lot of people know about it because there's also a film adaptation of this, which I'll touch on later too. But Jack was always all alone, like kind of abusive, because there was a time in the past where he had broke his son Danny's arm when he was drunk, because Danny had wasted like some I think it was like some of his beer that he was drinking, because Jack is also a writer. He's an author, and he's like writing stories and stuff like that. But like at one point in the past, he was writing a story and he wasted beer all over his like novel where his son Danny did, caused like a little accident or mistake, and he had wasted all over his novel or whatever. And then he got mad because he was already kind of drunk and broke Danny's arm. And then there was like situations like then or whatever that. But he was always kind of an abusive and aggressive father to his son Danny, and he was actually kind of mean at times to his wife Wendy. But he actually gave up his alcohol, whatever he hasn't. In this story, he hasn't drunk an alcohol in about a year and a half, I think it is. I think it's 14 months, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I believe it's like 14 months, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, other than that though, the novel was pretty good, but the Overlook Hotel turns out to be haunted with ghosts and stuff that only Jack can see at first, but then actually Danny, he actually kind of can see them too. And he keeps seeing this word that says red rum, and I don't want to spoil that, but that was kind of interesting too, because in the end, if you twist it around, it means something else, but I'm not going to spoil it or whatever if you have never read it or anything like that. But other than that, I could tell you, this was a pretty good like novel or whatever. I enjoyed it. I'm saying, like, for once, if there wasn't so many characters like most Stephen King novels, like Carrie, Salem's Lot, or like The Stand. You know what I'm saying? These books had like a tremendous amount of characters, which made it kind of difficult for me myself to keep up with. But other than that, in this novel, it was just mainly like three characters. You had the Jack character, you had Wendy, and you had Danny. So like I told you, it was about the only ones, you know what I'm saying? Then it made it very easy to keep up with the story as a whole, and it wasn't like confusing at times and stuff like that, Like I said, I pretty much enjoyed it, but then again, I don't want to spoil anything, but in the end, like there's kind of like situations, like I don't know if that was enough for him, for that character to be pushed that far. I don't know, but I know this is like horror fiction, so I guess that you could see something like that happen. But at the same time, like certain characters, they got pushed so far that they went and did this and that. But I still don't think whatever happened to them was strong enough to make them go and do what they did. See what I'm saying? But other than that, I thought this is a good novel. Stephen King's The Shining, and this is his third published novel, and these are the anchor book editions of his novels. As I mentioned before, like you have Carrie, you have Salem's Lot, and The Stand. So this is the anchor book edition of his books, because they're rebooting this whole series. Because actually, these are the only ones available so far from Anchor Book, and this was just released this past summer, and I just not got my hands on it. But next time, I'm going to give a review of the film adaptation of Stephen King's The Shining novel, with Jack Nicholson as the Jack Torrance character. And then Stanley Kubrick, he had directed this, the late filmmaker Stanley Kubrick. He directed this film adaptation of this novel. And this came out in 1980. So yeah. But yeah, that's my review of The Shining. And then next time I'll go ahead and give my review of the Night Shift novel, which I haven't started reading yet. I was going to go ahead and start reading this. I haven't read this yet. And this is the Anchor Book edition of The Night Shift. This consists of a whole bunch of like short stories by Stephen King. So this will be my next novel review I will do down the line. But yeah, that was my novel review of Stephen King's The Shining, which I enjoyed pretty much. And like I said again, it wasn't like so many like characters, like his previous novels. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't so like, and it wasn't over. It was still long. This was over 600 pages, but I read it. You know what I'm saying? I read it and I enjoyed it. And I thought it was pretty good. But yeah, other than that, I'm saying I would recommend reading this or whatever. Giving it a shot or whatever. Trying to think about if I left anything out. But yeah, go ahead and get us this like a good read, you know what I'm saying, if you're interested in it. And I hope you enjoyed it well. That's my review of Stephen King's The Shining. And I want to say I'm out. Bye. I'll see y'all guys later. All right.